Season 3, Part 1 of Dragons Rising was definitely a roller coaster. It had some of the most powerful emotions I've ever felt in the Ninjago TV series, but it also had some of the most chaotic plot decisions ever made in the Ninjago TV series as well. So the beginning of the season is a bit slower. In episode 1 and 2 we have some world building and it's fantastic. It's a bit random, but honestly this slice of life type of Ninjago content is very good to have. It's good to see the ninja in environments where they're not necessarily just focused on that plot. It helps grow the characters very well. While exploring these new worlds, it also keeps reinforcing that the merge did happen and that needs to be constantly reminded, because we can't just forget about the merge. That's the whole basis of Dragons Rising. So it constantly reminds you. We got to see the Cyclops guy, who's a completely new species, and he has some solid comedy and some solid action scenes. And Lloyd's Spinjitzu also does this really funky thing, and we learn later that it's a first realm thing, but it's cool that they introduced this kind of new power, but they didn't commit to it, so it doesn't make the ninja OP in any way. It's just an extra feature that they have, which definitely adds to the entertainment instead of just doing normal Spinjitzu. And I think it makes perfect sense since they are in the realm of the Oni and Dragon. The first Spinjitzu master is from the realm of the Oni and Dragon, and he made Spinjitzu, so it makes sense that there would be some effect. And maybe the ninja didn't get this before because they weren't as good at Spinjitzu as they were now. It's also interesting to see how Frak interacts with the rest of the team, especially Sora. Sassy Sora is definitely very interesting to watch. It feels like her.
I've got a really great cave sense.
I've got a really great cave sense. Okay, so one sarcastic thing now.
And then Frak is also kinda arrogant, but also he's not trying to be, so it makes for a very interesting dynamic. And he comes full circle once they're able to beat the Cyclops and all that, and he learns Lloyd's lesson properly, which is sometimes physical strength isn't the only kind of strength there is. Dorama's puppet also does show up, which visually it's really interesting. I feel like it's a little too convenient that there was a prismatic katana in that, and comment down below if you think that too. As I think about the season and as these things are more established, it doesn't bother me as much, but the first time I watched it I was like, oh, that's a bit random that it just showed up there. On Arin and Raz's story, Raz also reveals that he has a prismatic katana just somehow. Now I want to say that's way too convenient, but maybe Raz's master gave it to him. He has teleportation abilities. We'll let that one slide for now, but like you see what I mean? It feels a little too convenient. Like we saw two prismatic katanas just out of nowhere in the first 2 episodes. I don't know if this is a writing error or if Lloyd is just that good at assessing environments, but when they go to this little village to like quote unquote search for Arin, the second they land, Lloyd's like, you're like, oh well, we tried. He was a great student, but you know, sometimes you lose him.
This is the general area indicated by my calculations.
I don't see any sign of Arin, Roz, or the others.
There's also this really funny scene where Arin feeds Roz and it's just really uncomfortable to watch, in a good way though. And it's kind of funny because our animations also kind of exaggerate the relationship. Well, turns out Roz is a lot better of a master than you.
Hi, Lloyd. Me and Arin are very happy together. You see, Lloyd? He is so ripped right now.
Episode 3 is definitely when the season really picked up. Given the finale of the season, this episode is even better. Roz and Arin come upon the spectral lands, and the reason I like this episode so much is because earlier there was kind of this death loophole in Dragons Rising, because if the departed realm merged with the rest of the realms, when people die they could just walk back into the normal realms. Like you just die, come back, die, come back. So thankfully they did explain what happened to the departed realm, so you're stuck in the departed realm once you die and then you move on to another afterlife. And we also meet Moro there, who was done very right. You feel so bad for him because he's been misguided his whole life. He's made these poor choices because of Master Wu and also just horrible intuition himself. And he's just there guiding souls for almost eternity because the cursed realm has merged with the departed realm, so it's made for these spectral monsters to attack souls. So he needs to be there to protect them. And you know, towards the end, he just wants Master Wu to know he's doing the right thing. And then it's just interesting seeing Arin talk to him about broken masters and all that. However, there's like a weird infinite pocket thing in Dragons Rising right now, because Arin just puts like the whole bottle of this ambrosia in his back pocket and just whisks it out to revive Roz because Roz is dying, with Roz just kind of pulling a prismatic katana out of nowhere, which is like, when you consider how Tournament of Sources ended, that makes no sense. They were just fighting. And Ninjago has done this before, don't get me wrong, but they do it so much that you start to kind of notice it. Meanwhile, Kai, Nia, and Wildfire are searching for Jay, so they kind of go to this video game cabinet where Jay had a high score before. Kai gets a new high score, so it lures Jay in, which is definitely a plot line. I do like the kind of more slice of life world building. That's something I really like about Dragons Rising. We kind of get just more casual moments. Wildfire officially turns into an iPad kid, which is fantastic. Overall, it's fine. All these different plot lines are like a bit random and scattered right now, but they do end up converging, so that kind of saves it. Okay, so episode 4, the biggest highlights is we find another one of those monasteries, which is insane to me that the same monastery is being duplicated across different realms. Not sure who's building that. The main idea here is Zane is going on his little path. He finds the freebooters who also have a prismatic katana. This one did feel a little convenient at first, but then I thought about it. This is the first realm. If the freebooters were looting, this is a very valuable item and they definitely would have tried to steal it. Zane finds Pixel here, which is awesome. And it's just really sweet to see that Zane's like kind of bursting out of his shell, because like these past few seasons, he's just been very robotic, and it's so sad to see that he hasn't let loose in so long. So when he's joking around with Pixel and everything, it's like a very bittersweet moment. And again, the idea of the merge is reminded to you again as Pixel's like, how many years has it really been? You seem way too happy to see me. Zane Spinjitzu does some funky stuff, which looks pretty cool. And then we also do have another one of those fake out Zane deaths. I know, we've gotten these so much. When the soundtrack started playing, I literally I was smiling because I was like, okay, we're doing this again. However, the writers kind of changed it. It's not really a fake out death anymore. It's just Zane kind of making selfless acts of sacrifice. And I think that's the right way to go with it. Now, when Zane sacrifices himself, yes, he gets damaged, but now you kind of look at his characters like, damn, he's ready to let go of everything at any point. They also go somewhere with it because Zane turns into his super awesome mech form, which we'll talk about in a bit. So yeah, they kind of fixed the formula on Zane's fake out death just a little bit by making it less about the death and more about just Zane being selfless, which adds to his character. And before we move on, speaking of injuries, so many characters get more injured than we usually see in Ninjago. Wildfire breaks her arm, Frack's suit gets totally battle damaged, Kerr, the Forbidden 5 Elemental Master of Decay, is going around basically almost killing people. We see Roby in a hospital bed for most of the season, so I really like how adding body damage, while LEGO can't really do blood or actually kill people like that, they're doing their best, and adding people actually getting hurt actually adds like so much more stakes to these than just getting like knocked back, right? Oh, also, I was looking at my notes, I almost forgot. The rock from the crab monster in the beginning. Remember we just like wondered what that was? That was a prismatic katana. Now, that's just awesome. And it makes, like, this is the first prismatic katana where it's like, oh, that wasn't too convenient. Like, that makes total sense, and it just makes it so much better. Like, good job for setting up that question way back when and making that a prismatic katana. So in episode 5, Kerr was explained a little bit more. She did a lot with her decay powers. Basically does Ninjago's equivalent of killing people because they can't exactly kill people like I said before. Roz's manipulation is also getting really crazy because Arin and Roz are walking in the desert. Arin's doubting him, saying, where are we going? This is a random place. And then Roz reveals a lever, which reveals Arin and Roz's super storm jet. Arin's like, okay, like, I guess I won't doubt you as much anymore. And it's subtle pushes like this that kind of push Arin more towards Roz's side. And there's also subtle pushes like Frack talking to Arin about, hey, if you think Roz is better than the green ninja to teach you, then you have a problem. So there's like subtle pushes going back and forth which really add to his character, and you'll see a lot of that throughout this season. The jet itself, like the texturing is good, but the animation feels a little off sometimes. It moves a little awkwardly. It's not as good as Zane's jet from Crystallize, which moved pretty elegantly. So maybe that's just how it works, but that was just a personal thing that I noticed. Zarkt ends up meeting the ninja for a bit to try and get the prismatic katanas back, but Lloyd pops off like crazy. The fight scenes weren't just like these one-shot animations, but they were doing some very creative movements. And then Pixel comes in and does this insane move where she kind of just plays around with Zark for a bit, and it's just insane. And guess what? Mech Zane can fly. Oh yeah, meanwhile, Arin is told by Roz that his parents are actually dead. So that's great news, right? I really like this location. We've never really seen like crashing waves too much in Ninjago, so it's a gray beach with crashing waves. It's a very ominous looking location. Maybe we'll come back to it eventually, but whoever designed this environment did a really good job. And apparently Roz's hammer was a source dragon icon the whole time, which is so awesome. It makes total sense because he's like slapping dragons with it in the beginning. And we thought it was just Roz's strength, but I mean, I guess that hammer is where a lot of the power is coming from. And Arin actually tearing up is something we don't see a lot in Ninjago and very hard to watch. Not a lot of characters have to go through people dying around them in Ninjago, so it just sucks that Arin has to be one of them. But again, really good writing. Arin seems to be completely on Roz's side and mission now. Episode 6 is where a lot of these quote-unquote random plot lines start connecting a lot better. We see Ericor, the Jin, making a lot of Ninjago back, which is really cool to see. Dareth's back, which is fantastic. Dareth and Ericor have a couple dialogues where they're able to explain how Jin magic actually works, so it's all well established. And Rogue, also known as Jay, also has a better reason to be in the story because Zeatrix hires him to go find Roz, which again, I love how Dragon's Rising keeps all these side characters so consistent. Even if they don't really do much in that season, it's nice to have because it just makes this world feel more immersive. And honestly, this episode kind of made me realize how far Ninjago has come because Nia and Sora are both like female characters, right? And these guys kind of lead the episode. There's Pixel in the background, Wildfire in the background. There's so much female characters doing so much and there's so much better of a balance. Not that it was a problem before, but I'm just saying it's a good thing, right? To have this balance and have like such solid female characters in a quote-unquote show aimed for boys, which I mean now it's not really anymore, right? It's just for everyone. There is a scene where Ericor can only grant small wishes, so Nia and Sora go running around trying to fight these guys with small wishes, and I feel bad for this one guy who gets his bones turned to jelly. I never see anyone wishing his bones to turn back into normal bones, even towards the end of the season, so I guess he's just walking around in eternal pain. You know how like bad that is to just have mush go? It's so bad. Oh, like it's just mush. I can't even think about it without getting grossed out. Episode 7 starts out really cute with Zane and Pixel's dynamic. It's being done pretty well, and they just want to go adventuring in the merged realms together, which is pretty cute, and I think an interesting way to kind of phase Zane and Pixel out of the storyline, like what they did with Cole and the Finders. Roz needs to go to the Temple of the Dragon Energy Cores, which is in the World Forest, and it's always a treat to see that location because it just incites so much wonder. These trees are larger than life, and it's very interesting to see. Roz and Arin eventually run into the mountain dragons, but from season 1 we know that Roz was hunting these guys down, so eventually the mountain dragons figure it out. It's a good way to remind us who Roz actually is because it's easy to forget the stuff this guy did back then. And with Zeatrix hunting Roz down, because Rogue is chasing Roz and Arin down in this as well, and he has this cool exosuit. But anyways, because of that, we're also reminded that yeah, Roz basically killed Zeatrix's dad. Don't forget about that. No matter how cute Roz looked in that picture that Zeatrix gave Rogue, he's someone else. Ninjago really didn't do this before, but in the background we see rustling leaves kind of swaying with the wind, and that's something they never used to do, and I love it. They did it with the first episode of the merge, and they've done it ever since, and it's just such a nice detail, and it makes the environment feel a lot more immersive. Arin also ends up understanding Roz a lot better. They're starting to become more and more closer. Arin is called a villain in the middle when Roz tortures the temple spirit for more information on source dragons, which I feel like makes Arin understand Roz better, because sometimes being in the gray area of good and bad, you end up being called a villain for goals that might not seem as malicious. So this kind of makes Arin unconsciously a little bit more sympathetic to Roz, I think. Episode 8 of Dragon's Rising Season 3 is a really good one. It's a very character-driven episode. It starts off with just this really awkward scene. The ninja are just full silent as they're just staring at each other, at Arin and Roz. Loy's just silent for a long time. He doesn't even talk until way later. But Arin's not budging. He's not gonna go with the ninja. Then all chaos starts breaking loose. Drix comes into the battle, which Drix is super threatening. Like Zarkt was super easy to break. You saw how Pixel was just messing around with him. But Drix, on the other hand, they can barely get their hands on him. Kai basically shanks Drix with fire, and there's just a hole in his body. Like, this guy's freaky. Drix is probably one of my favorite Forbidden 5 members at the moment. The way he fights is just insane. Anyways, this is going on. Rogue is chasing Roz down, and Roz is kind of getting beat up, getting thrown around in the trees. Arin's going after him. But in the midst of all that, we get little glimpses of flashbacks of Sora and Arin, how they met. And it's really cool to see, right? Because we get world building of how the Crossroads was being created. Seeing some of those flashbacks was a bit redundant because we had seen some of those scenes before, like word for word, same camera angles and all that. And maybe I would have preferred for those scenes to just be swapped out with another flashback that kind of invoked the same emotion. Sora basically gets child trafficked. Like, what is this, Ninjago? Like, this is such a mature topic to be doing in a children's show. Sora's just getting kidnapped. Arin saves her, and then as this is going, we see Sora chasing Arin in the World Forest. So when the flashback ends, where Sora and Arin make up because Sora had originally run away because she blew up the oven and Arin said something in spite. As they make up and Arin and Sora save each other in the flashback, they also save each other in the real world, which is such a good way to elevate the scene. I haven't seen much anime, but in the ones I've seen, they do this all the time where there'll be like a really insane action scene, but there'll be flashes of past memories while that's happening. So when the final climax comes, it just feels so much better. That's what happened here. It's a pretty average action scene. Well animated, right? But emotion wise, it was a pretty neutral action scene. But because of this flashback, when they finally come together and Sora saves Arin, it just feels good.
Together forever.
Take my hand!
I got you!
Mr. Frohike is also doing stuff in the background, and he's such a sympathetic character. He just wants the ninja to win all the time, and I love this guy. And I really love how Dragon's Rising carries its comedic characters. They're not exaggerated comedy. Like, yeah, they do goofy stuff like Roby and Mr. Frohike, but they also have these genuine moments which add so much layers to them. For example, Roby said, oh, like, Wildfire probably saved the world and probably all the other ninja, but that line is delivered in a really good way where it feels genuine and it feels like an actual person would say it. Same for Mr. Frohike as well, and I'm glad he somewhat figured out how to use the waxer.
Thank you, Wildfire.
And I'm sure some of the other ninja helped.
Okay, now with episode 9, the season's really starting to pick up. We're getting to the finale. The ninja are trying to do a hit on the Forbidden Five as they take the katanas back to Thunderfang and release him, so they try to infiltrate in the middle of the canyon. All craziness just breaks loose. There's jetpacks and they're doing spin jutsu in that. Everybody against everybody. Roz is going against Nokt in the middle, and that's great to see because these guys know each other very well. Nokt even gives him his hammer. He's like, let's actually fight. I'm not gonna fight you the way you did where you put that electric collar on me like a coward. One thing going into this season that I was really curious about was if Thunderfang's scale would be really felt. Firstborn, when we saw her for the first time in Hunted, was one of the grandest scenes I've ever seen in Ninjago. Just we see a tip of the wing as the fake firstborn that Wu's flying is revealed to not be the one that's causing actual mayhem. And ever since that scene, I've been kind of waiting to feel that grand scale on a dragon again. I think I felt it with Thunderfang. Obviously, they're going for different things, but I felt Thunderfang's size, especially when he's like scratching the ground and tearing up all the rubble. They did it well. Pixel is in the fight, but she drives this flying car, which is hilarious to see. It makes total sense, right? It has boosters at the bottom, but the way it's just kind of floating around, it just doesn't look right, and it's funny. The Forbidden Five are obviously betrayed by Thunderfang. Thunderfang doesn't care about mortals. His ego is way too big for that. So he sucks their power out. And that's basically the end for them as he's released. I really hope in the next season the Forbidden Five get more development, because if they don't, then that's going to be a detractor for this season, because they didn't get too much development in this one. So fingers crossed their story isn't over yet. Wildfire has a really cool moment. Roby's finally healed, so she's finally like, let's get to the battle. And she pulls up the Storm Rider mech, but they basically remix the Dragon's Rising theme, and it hits so hard. I'll play the scene for you. Speaking of Wildfire, her plotline also doesn't interfere with the main story too much. It doesn't feel random because Roby's literally dying, so we're constantly reminded of how threatening these guys are. And it's good because we also get to see more of Wildfire and her more nurturing side. Okay, episode 10. I've been waiting to talk about this for a while. This episode feels so hopeless in the beginning. The ninja were struggling enough against the Dragonians and the Forbidden Five as it was, but now Thunderfang's so huge they can barely put a scratch on him. That hopeless feeling isn't something we get a lot in Ninjago because obviously we know the ninja always win, but you just feel scared as Lloyd's getting his soul sucked out by Thunderfang. This guy's creepy. Thunderfang just looking at the sky saying, "Come on, Source Dragons, I know you see me. I ate your conduit soul." It's just really good stuff all in all. The combiner maker looks really cool when it's all combined with Zane and all that. One thing in particular is Lloyd's POV shot when he does Rising Dragon looks really cool as all Kai, Nia, and Lloyd do Rising Dragon together. It's just super awesome. I know I mentioned this before, but Frat getting a battle damage suit is perfect. I mean, he gets beat up bad. Look at that. Look at all those marks on him. I would like to see that more in Ninjago. And for the culminating finale, Arin pulls a very unexpected move. Basically, Thunderfang's power is made up of souls, and in the beginning of the season, we saw that a well has this very weird energy that releases souls. So Arin still has a little bit in his vial, and basically as this brand new soundtrack starts playing, it makes for this really magical moment where all of Arin's conversations, Arin and Sora had a conversation earlier about how Arin's channeling his hatred and not his love, and Sora tells him like, "Hey dude, like you've been helping people out and you were more stronger when you did love and when you were happy." And so Arin's recalling these memories. He's recalling his memories with Moro, and he says, "I think I need to throw this into Thunderfang," as he's holding Lloyd's lifeless body. Raz is saying there's no way you can throw it fast enough to fight the winds. And Arin basically thinks about everything he loves, everything that makes him happy, and he throws it. And he does object spinjitzu on purpose, and he saves the day. This scene is a very bittersweet scene. It makes you feel weird because life and death and moving on is a very hard concept for anyone to deal with in the real world. Having understood that Arin just found out that his parents are quote unquote dead, but not really, he doesn't know that, and kinda him freeing his soul as he frees other people's souls. After so much hate and loneliness in the season, it's so heartwarming to see Arin remember these really good moments he might have taken for granted in the beginning. They capture that feeling of, like, when you think about your loved ones, just think about your loved ones and close your eyes. You get this feeling inside that you think about their smiles, their laughs and stuff, and they pick the right memories, and you feel that emotion swelling up inside Arin, and that fuels him. That literally feels like it fuels him. From the other side of the screen, mind you, this is a Lego show, we're watching it, but we feel it. And again, the soundtrack starts off as its own thing.
Souls.
And then as Arin starts to make a decision, those dots start to double up right here.
The Arin I know, my best friend, his strength comes from his kindness. His
And then that soundtrack and the Dragon's Rising theme comes together for Arin to finally come into his own character. He's finally the hero of the story. And so the soundtrack also does a really good job of telling that story. I know I said that a couple times, but it's just, this was awesome. Life and death were always dark concepts to begin with, so the Spectral Lands episode was already pretty dark, and having a whole Ninjago finale kind of based on releasing these poor souls, that's powerful. Jay towards the finale is slowly coming back to who he is, and he's still trying to be all nonchalant and stuff, but he can't. He's Jay. He's supposed to be funny. His leg's broken, which again, more injuries in the show. Awesome. Keep doing that. If you can't do blood or killing, at least do that because it gives us more actual stakes. And with that, the season concludes. We see Spectral Thunderfang sucking Moro's souls up, and this is bad because if every soul goes through where Moro was, the Spectral Lands, then Thunderfang basically has free reign on all the souls he could ever want. He's gonna get more powerful than ever. Now the next season has leaked. We're not gonna talk about it just yet. I'm gonna wait till it officially comes out. But that is all for my review on the season. It did have a little bit of a slower start, but the ending just made up for it tenfold. It was nice to see where Arin's little yellow diamond that came in the set finally led up to. Thank you for watching this pretty long review. I really appreciate you going through this. Comment down below what you think about the season, and as usual, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.